Welcome to the EVready podcast, featuring industry leaders and their perspectives on electrification, hosted by EVready Energy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the EVready podcast. My name is Chris Nyan, and I am grateful to be hosting Saimah Chowdhury, who is the co-founder of Zevo.com. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I'm excited to be here.
I was especially excited to have this podcast because when we were talking before, everything flowed so well. We ended up getting into so many different things. And what you're doing is something that I've been a customer for so long now. But maybe a good place to start is to give us a little bit of your background, how you came up with the idea of Zevo.com.
Yeah, absolutely. So it goes way back. The beginning stages of, my business entrepreneurship journey was I was a software tech founder way back when I was in college many moons ago. And from there, I sort of actually accidentally fell into doing peer-to-peer car sharing through the very well-known platform Turo. A client of mine from my software company had just mentioned it to me one day back when they used to still be relay rides before they changed to Turo. And so since I was working from home with my software company, I ended up listing a car on Turo. And that's kind of how I started to get the feel for peer-to-peer car sharing. And all of that sort of bubbled up to become an entire business where I ended up having a very large fleet on Turo's platform. I started a YouTube channel because so many people were inquiring about what is this business? So you rent out cars and you make money. So I just kind of started teaching it back to all the people that would ask me about it. And from there, actually, my co-founder, Hebron, many years ago, found me through my YouTube channel. And around that time, it was probably like 2019, Elon was talking a lot about robo-taxi and doing kind of ride hailing and with your autonomous vehicles and Teslas. And Hebron kind of approached me and was like, hey, look, who knows when this thing's going to happen? But given that he was also a host on Turo and we had a lot of experience on that platform and owning cars and renting them out, he was like, why don't we just do this in a better way with all EVs? It makes so much more sense. And you come along and build this with me. And so that's kind of how we mashed up. And then we kind of took it from there. We're like, okay, we need to create a better platform that just makes more sense and, try to beat Elon to it.
Good luck. So can you talk a little bit about what obviously, and I guess just for context for everybody, I used to rent my cars out on Turo. I guess I still do, but I don't think to the volume that you ever did. I probably did it like 300 times. So, it was a good amount, but when you talk about having a fleet, I never had that. So I guess my question for you is you've been through it all. You probably know more than this industry than 99.9% of people. What is the ride sharing challenges of 2025 versus when you started?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So doing this for a decade on Turo's platform and having that fleet, I kind of learned a lot of stuff about kind of the end user and as a host and just kind of how the landscape was changing. But I think when it comes to ride sharing and what I learned through all of that is I think the single most important thing is for it to really be a good business is the fundamental economics of it. Whether you're an owner or you're a driver, you have to be fundamentally set up correctly from a financial perspective. So with Turo, for example, one of the things that I noticed is that the hardest thing was people just didn't understand how to buy a car at the best price so that it remains profitable over the long run and kind of how markets change over time and how that affects your price. And so I think people really struggle to set up a business that can stand the test of time. And so in today's day and age where I think we have, so much more technology at our fingertips, the automotive market has really changed a lot, especially with EV OEMs like Tesla being able to supply so much volume when it comes to EVs. It's really made pricing very competitive, which is a really good thing, I think, on the rideshare and the peer-to-peer car sharing side of things, because now you can acquire units at a price that makes a lot of sense and rent them out. And then in terms of, ride hailing, which is our customer base, we rent out to rideshare drivers. that demand is also just rapidly increasing and becoming kind of a profitable way for them to kind of earn revenue and make money and generate income for themselves. So I think when you kind of marry the two things together, where you can really purchase an affordable car, and with a platform like ours that makes it super seamless and efficient and cost effective to run, you can keep your driver profitable and affordable when it comes to renting the car.
And I bet there are so many like different there's so many different challenges on the customer side that keeping customers happy is such a challenging piece. And then I think you have a few different customers. You have your who's renting out the vehicle to you, and then you have the end user and
Yeah.
the experience that they're having. So can you talk a little bit about what the day-to-day is like operating a business where you're trying to provide the right experiences to the right partners, we'll call it?
Yes, definitely. And I feel like that's kind of like the key factor to this whole business. We're super, super invested in making sure both our fleet owners and our drivers are really well taken care of. Because I think at the end of the day, that's the thing. Like, if they know that the platform cares on both sides and we're looking out for your best interests and we're designing our systems to cater to that, that builds a lot of trust. So, what I mean by that is, for example, our fleet owners. When somebody's interested in listing a car on Zevo's platform and they're thinking about purchasing cars, we do a ton of host facing education. You know, these are the unit economics. We have a depreciation calculator that's going to map out what 5 years looks like if you buy a Tesla at $27,000 and it has an 85% utilization rate and it's depreciating X amount per year. This is what you can expect like in the life cycle and how profitable you'll remain, which is why that buying price point is so important. So we really heavily lean on education so that they understand the unit economics, they purchase correctly, then we help them manage their fleets really efficiently so that keeps them profitable over the long run. And then on the other side of the platform, we have our renters, our drivers, and our specific customer profile is rideshare drivers. You know, they're doing gig work, they're driving for Uber and Lyft. So for us to really understand how those markets perform and how a driver earns, how many hours they're typically driving, what they earn in different markets, so that our marketplace pricing kind of really helps them, you know, remain profitable if they're renting a vehicle from us, is super important. So we're very engaged with our drivers. We try to talk to them, kind of understand, like, you know, what is your day to day like and what's your financial situation, so that everything is always kind of moving like in harmony, if you will, on both sides of the platform, and that we continue to match the unit economics on the owner side and guide accordingly as well. So both sides are very well balanced.
And like in terms of the market of different companies that are out there right now, like what inning would you say that this ride sharing industry is in development? Like is it's probably not the first inning. I'm guessing it's not the last inning. I don't really understand the space. Like, well, you know, how do you see this industry developing over the next, call it like 5 years and 10 years?
So there's 9 innings in baseball, right?
Yes, that was the sport I was referencing.
Perfect. I had just had to check. What inning we're in? That's a really good question. I feel like if I had to assign a number, I would say maybe we're like in the fourth inning. But at the same time, in my mind, kind of how I think about it is, you know, we have the internet and the kind of revolution that it went through over these last 2 decades, if you will, or the last 25 years. Now, all of a sudden, we have the internet, but AI's come along. So it's almost gone through like a complete refresh, because this whole idea of implementation of AI is so novel. So, in the same way with car sharing, in my mind, how I see it is, you know, car sharing's been done with ICE vehicles historically. Now, doing it with EVs that are so technologically advanced and gives platform like us the ability to pull telemetry and be extremely intelligent about how we approach the effectiveness of how we run our platform. I almost feel like we're playing a whole new game, if you will. So while we historically have like the understanding of how car sharing works and what people are looking for, we're kind of playing a whole new game on the field with EVs.
Why did you decide all electric? Was it a sustainability thing? Was it a business thing? Was it a technology thing? Tell
I
us about
think
that.
really all of the above. When Hebron and I first started talking about this, I mean, it just made all the sense in the world because we talked about really kind of the bad experiences that we had when it came to car sharing. And a lot of it was around, the maintenance of these vehicles, randomly having like a drivetrain go out or, a coolant leak. And it's expensive and it's really hard to anticipate what that variable cost is going to be. That's one. Two, we would come across things like stolen vehicles all the time and, just not having the ability to really know what's going on with your fleet and when things were going wrong and what you could do about it. So when we started talking about EVs and kind of like the built-in telemetry that, let's say, Teslas have, for example, we just knew like inherently and fundamentally, like, okay, this makes all the sense in the world because we can tap into every aspect of the vehicle and kind of from a high level very efficiently run a platform for car sharing and not have all that variability that exists, I think, with ICE vehicles.
And like, tell me a little bit about like, what do you think? What do you think of the automotive industry right now? What do you think what are the cars on the road that you're excited for? Which ones are best for your business? Which ones are being used most in your business?
So right now we're actually specifically Teslas because their API is just incredible and the telemetry that they have is incredible. But of course, there's so many more OEMs coming up. I know the ones that we're specifically very excited about are Lucids and Rivians. But again, it'll always come back to, for us, our customer base and what they're excited about and what their needs are. So we get a lot of requests for different OEMs, but so far, Tesla has definitely been the clear winner from all sides.
It's so interesting because when you talk about maintenance, you always hear about how electric cars have less maintenance. I think the one thing that I usually hear is when people talk about, they're like, oh, they weigh more, so you have to replace the tires more. But probably no one knows more about that, at least for Tesla, than you. Like, what's been your maintenance profile experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for sure, tires. And for us, tires, because of course these vehicles are heavy, so they just burn through tires much faster. But also because our drivers tend to accumulate a ton of miles, like their utilization is very high. They're typically driving maybe about 1,000 miles per week on average across the platform. So we go through tires far more frequently than kind of personal use. And, it's just a part of it. And one of the things that we do on the host side of things is we educate that as being kind of like the primary maintenance cost. And so when you map out a year, we sort of anticipate maybe you're going to rotate tires 2.5 times and what that cost looks like. We even have partners that, will offer kind of a discounted rate for our owners specifically. So it all gets factored in. And so they're really able to balance it really well. But beyond tires, I think with the Tesla specifically, the one that's kind of thorny that we come across, which is still minimal, is the 12-volt batteries going out. And that happens sometimes, like if somebody's leaving Sentry mode on or, the cabin cooling feature, those batteries can come out. They're really inexpensive to replace, but that happens every so often. Tires mostly, though.
Can you talk a little bit about like, your fleet's 100% Tesla. You mentioned that their APIs are great. I'd love to like understand a little bit about like what that means to you and for your business. And then, this other piece of the 12-volt batteries are going up because of Sentry mode. And Sentry mode, I'm guessing, is probably a requirement, I'm guessing, to have on while the cars are out. Like, can you talk a little bit about Tesla and some of the technology that they have and why it is so helpful to you, or maybe why certain things might be challenging?
Yeah, of course. I mean, off the top of my head, probably by far my most favorite feature, or my top two, I'll say. Number one, we have the ability to generate digital keys. So you don't have to use your key cards or your key fobs, just depending on the car that you have. When a renter books a car through Tesla's API, we're able to automatically generate a digital key. It's connected to that booking. So when that booking ends, that key is null and void, which is really great for access and safety. The second thing that I love is one of the things that we do with our API is we have kind of internal collision detection warnings on. So essentially, we kind of triangulated around like certain sensors that will go off when somebody gets into an accident. And that alert's going to hit our system. And so we can more or less know that, hey, you know what, this vehicle got into a collision. So we can move very quickly on figuring out where that car is, getting in touch with that driver. Are they okay? Notifying the host, tow, insurance, claim, etc., and hopefully get that car back on the road quickly. So that's definitely like some of my favorite stuff with Tesla for sure. And I think that keeps us very safe in this business, specifically when it comes to risk. But yeah, I would say, the harder stuff for sure is like Sentry mode, which a lot of our owners love to use because, again, if you have accidents and stuff, something goes wrong, it's really helpful to have kind of that video surveillance. And we try to like balance that out by having a lot of internal notifications. So we'll get notified if a battery is being depleted faster than normal and something's not quite right. Again, pulling all of that from Tesla's API, just so we can get notifications out to an owner or a guest like, hey, you might want to think about changing this or getting in touch with your guest type of thing.
It's really interesting. I pivoted because I've had a Tesla since 2014, and obviously it has all this functionality that like traditional cars haven't had in the past. And
Yeah.
for someone like you that's so creative to be able to think through how to run that through your business if it's 100%, I was like, oh, maybe that, maybe there are some things there.
Yeah.
I think this would be my last question for you is talk to me about the perfect end user experience that you're looking for. And what I mean by that is like, how have you structured your business around being able to service whoever's renting out your car, the experience for the end user? Do you have like service centers? Like, where do people pick up the cars? If somebody wanted to participate in your solution, how would they do it?
So that is a really good question. And let me see if I kind of grasp it all. The experience that we want for both owners and drivers is as seamless and efficient as possible. If you need a car, you should be able to book one in real time. And you should be able to walk up to that car knowing that it's charged, it's ready to go, keys on your phone, you're going to access the vehicle and you're going to go. And on the owner side, the experience that we really try very diligently to provide is, hey, our system has done all the due diligence. We've checked driver's license. We ran a motor vehicle record check. Like, this is a very vetted driver. So you can rest assured that you're good. And our built-in kind of education and messaging system is going to guide them through any questions, especially if it's a first-time user, which we get a lot of people who are first-time wanting to just kind of dabble into EVs where it's maybe a little bit of unknown for a lot of people. Maybe there are markets where infrastructure isn't quite there yet, and it's not like a California or Florida or a Texas where they're very common. So we have a lot of messaging built in-house that just educates them like, hey, this is how this works. Or really helpful notifications like, hey, your battery's getting low. This is where the nearest charging station is. You're going to want to start heading in that direction just so you don't deplete your battery, for example. And I think, yeah, in a perfect world, if somebody wanted to get started with us, it's as easy as just going on Zevo.com, setting up an account if you're an owner, and literally any Teslas that you own will just sync right up. And if you don't own any yet, we will be reaching out to you and kind of educating you along the way. And then same thing for the driver. They can sign up within minutes, talk to a real life person, will help you along the way, kind of get acclimated. And aside from that, we also have, like, for example, in Texas, which was the very first market we started in Dallas and Austin, we have what we call concierge lots. So if you want to be super hands off and let this be as passive as possible, you can literally come to one of our lots, drop your car off. We have on the ground team members that will manage everything. So if the car needs to be washed, flipped around, or a renter needs help just kind of learning the car and getting acclimated, we will in real life work with them, get them all set up so you don't really have to worry about anything. But yeah, in a perfect world is just continuing to make this as seamless and easy as possible while making it very like high value driven. I want my drivers to always feel like I can rent a car from Zevo and I'm still going to be very profitable when I'm driving for gig share. And then same thing for our hosts. Like I want them to trust in the fact that if they follow our unit economics, we're going to keep them profitable because we're just going to run this very lean and mean and as efficient as possible.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, really exciting business. Pumped for you, and to see the company growing, and appreciate your time on the podcast. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for joining.
of course. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This was fun.
Absolutely.